Alright, hello everybody, hope everybody's doing well. So, this is my Brics part 2. Okay, I'm just gonna go over, let's begin with reviewing the, um, we'll be reviewing, we'll go over the Nesara psyop first. Okay, so, I know something good is coming, but it's not Nesara. That has to be a psyop. And there's two things that I took from this that led me to believe it was a psyop. The first thing is that it talks about Bill Clinton being force assigned by the military, the Nesara initiative. And according to law, if you sign something under duress, in other words, if you're forced to sign it, especially if you're forced to sign something at gunpoint, then it's invalid. That's a first clue that kind of tipped me off as to questioning whether it was true or not. Another thing is I know that China and Russia are not good guys. They're bad guys. So you can take that. I mean, there's nothing good about them. Okay, so let's go in. Another thing that tipped me off was this story about 9/11 and Building 7. Now that's going to come into play. There's two things that I was able to research. Okay, something did happen after 9/11, and we're going to go into that. And I think this is where, because there's always some truth and lies and some lies and truth. And what happened after 9/11 was what Goldman Sachs did in starting Brics. And then, you know, and then there was the quantum financial system done by the quantum initiative. Okay. And that's what we're going to look in first, because when they talked about QFS and I found something on it, it kind of made me start believing in it a little bit. But then as time passed, I remember that this time you got to be wary about what you believe, because that was one of the things in the 1998 or 1999 documents that I read, that it discussed how it'll be hard to believe anything and you gotta be wary about anything. One reason why I'm looking into the micronova issue. But I'm still researching that before I want to make a video on that. And I'll probably be an introduction video at first, because, man, there's a lot of research and things that go into that. Okay, so let's begin. Okay, so right now we're at the office of the controller of the currency. Now, this word right here can be pronounced as comptroller or controller. I know that sounds weird, but look it up. So I'm just gonna say the controller of the currency, but this is also referred to as the OCC. So if you hit this, you research this, the quantum financial system, and this should be the first thing that comes up. Okay, and then this document is basically an email to Mexico talking about paying them money. And notice of deficit due to bracket readjustment. But one of the main key things in this document occurs right here. It says, in preparation for the global currency reset and the arrival of the quantum financial system running parallel, any international financial activity related by their respective agencies must strictly comply with no tolerance to all protocol and regulations stipulated in the International Quantum Initiative Act. Okay. So, it kind of makes you wonder, what the fuck does that mean? And what it means, we're going to have a new financial system. Okay? This is... So, how do you create a new financial system? You end the current financial system. And this is where change happens. Okay? Because we got the global currency reset right here. Okay? And that's currently taking place, but it's also aligning with the quantum financial system currently running parallel. So, we got a reset going on and this new currency, or this new financial system coming. Now, this new financial system, okay, if you want to research more into what's going on with that, possibly, you want to go to quantum.gov and you'll you can read. There's a lot going into it. That's why I'm not going to go over that just quite yet. But you can read about the Quantum Initiative Act. It's the one that the United States signed. It's the one that Trump signed. And that was another clue that I thought Nesara was real, because Trump signed this Quantum Initiative Act. But the Democrats are using it for, or trying to use it for the CBCD. I'm not for sure what Trump's plan was. I might have to go look at his, after I get done with this, or maybe we're going to review Trump's, executive orders too. I need to make that a priority, because maybe there's something in there that talks about the reason why he signed the Quantum Initiative Act. I know that there's a big story in that, and so I want to make that something that I probably might start going over with parallel with this. But in any case, the global currency reset is currently happening, and we're going to have a new financial system. Now, this is where we can take charge. We need to start buying gold and stuff. Gold and silver. Stay away from crypto. I don't believe in crypto. To me, crypto is another fiat currency. We need something stable and something solid to balance or to replace the dollar, because the dollar is going down. That's the aim of all of this. The aim of all of this is to bring the dollar down, which I'm in favor for, because it's a fiat currency. I don't believe in fiat currencies because they suck. They have a 0% success rate. But let's, but so the economy is going to collapse. That's not a question. The question is, when will it collapse? And that has to be within a year or two. I don't see how they can delay it any longer. Okay, so Okay, moving on. So this right here comes directly from Goldman Sachs, right there. Okay. Sound familiar? Building better. Does building better sound familiar? Kind of sounds like Joe Biden. Building back better, building better. The global economic Brics. Okay. So, and remember, this happened shortly after 9/11. Okay. Keeping with the Nesara initiative, and this is a global investment research. Brics, or Goldman Sachs helped to create Brics. All right. Because of 9/11. And there's other documents on here that support that and peer-reviewed paper as well. But they were wanting Brics to come up, and the elite want to go to China. Okay, this is why China's not good. They're trying to move everything to a China-controlled system, and China being the dominant country, along with Russia and Iran. If you cannot tell, they want to replace Christianity with Islam. That's where Iran comes in. So right now you have the three city-states of Washington, D.C., which is the military, Rome, the religious city-state, and then you have London, which is the banking. Well, the Jews right now are currently in China, and meaning-wise, Goldman Sachs. So you have Russia, who is starting wars. So it's obviously clear that Russia is going to replace America as the military power. China, on the meanwhile, is the main key figure in Brics, so it's going to be the banking. And then you got Iran, who believes in Islam, and they will be the spiritual. And this just kind of talks about see the importance of Brics, how they were trying to, after 9/11, which they kind of signaled as the downfall of the United States, because they can't pull any more profit from the United States. So they're switching everything to China and Brics. Okay, now let's get into the peer-reviewed paper that I'm going to go over. Okay, and then now we have the peer-reviewed paper. If you have access to peer-reviewed literature, here's the DOI. Okay, that's a direct link. Okay, so it's titled A New Epoch of Sino-Russian relations and their regional and global influence. Okay, so the aim of the article is describe, and Sino is basically Chinese. So we're talking about Chinese-Russian relationships to basically a new era of development and economic structure. See, indicating the commitment to building the future international order. And we're going to go over the history of their relations and what their geo-economic basically goals are, and changing everything, and how the two powers want to achieve new areas of cooperation focused on building here's the key, a multipolar world order, which is necessary to this. Okay. And the This hybrid is a structural factor that can constrain the use of new dimensions and asymmetric interdependence as a political leverage, especially by United States against the two non-Western powers, but also facilitate to use it against the West. Okay, so let's go into this a little bit. Okay, so this part basically talks about the collapse of the Soviet Union, which gave rise to the United States. But as Russia went down, China came up. And then American dominance came about. But after the downfall, the Russians and China, however, started to create this alliance. And which brings Vladimir Putin into the picture, but he was already in the picture way before. And a major divide between the United States and Russia came when the United States, or not the United States, Russia first invaded Ukraine. And also with the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative. And this helped strengthen the alliance between Russia and China, even though it was building before, and you're going to see that. Okay, so let's go into the history of this. Okay, after the fall of the USSR, did it really fall? I don't think so. Because, okay, Russia fell, but then their Chinese-Russian relationships began to improve. So a communist nation, a nation that rejected communism after the fall of the USSR became friends with another communist nation really strong. That kind of seems weird, and it turned into a strategic partnership and a declaration on the multipolar world adopted in 1997. In 2001, Russia and China signed a treaty of good neighborliness, friendship, and cooperation. Isn't that weird that Goldman Sachs also did what they did in 2001? Yeah. And then here's another key part. In this treaty, Putin and Zhang committed their effort to promote a just and fair new world order. You see this? A new world order? So many other politicians were saying that too. So they're part of the New World Order. Adhering to the rule, friends forever, enemies never. That's very interesting, right? Therefore, okay, so we got this whole thing going with Europe and China, how basically, just to reinstate, the purpose of this is for research. So we got Russia and China building things in Europe, trying to get Europe on their side. This is kind of a little overtake of Europe here. And then the Ukraine crisis shifted the geopolitical axis of Eurasia. It has directly weakened Russia, and China began to realize that if Russia If Russia would overthrown, the West would control all their natural resources. So China's very heavily invested in Russia for their natural resources. And they can't let the West destroy Russia because then China or Russia would change its stance to anti-Chinese. Therefore, Beijing supported Russia by signing long-term contracts for the purchase of oil and gas. Okay, so I got about 10 minutes because I told people I'd keep these videos around 15 to 30 minutes. So, and then following all this, they signed a declaration for a stage of strategic partnership. Now, this is interesting. Everything talks about how they start getting into strategic partnerships. Like, what's the strategy here? That's what we're trying to uncover. Okay, and we see more of this Eurasian Economic Union and Asia kind of combining. So maybe this is why Russia's pounding it to Europe right now, is because they need Eastern Europe to ensure this agreement. So China and Russia have been doing a lot of treaties and a lot of planning. Um, See, comprehensive strategic partnership. But respectively. Yeah, and see, I don't understand where they're indicating that China had no idea that it was trying to build an alliance with Russia. No. Yeah, they're trying to find ways around so China doesn't get hit hard by the United States. But we know all that is different because, you know, the trade war started in 2018 because Trump saw Beijing as a main threat to the United States power. Um, but, you know, Trump is right. The U.S. shouldn't be the promoter of democracy. Um, But all this was overturned with Biden, who indicated that the U.S. should remain the world leader by promoting democracy around the globe. But the United States is not a democracy, and democracy in all sucks. Okay, so like I said, here we go. We're seeing this year pop up again, 2001. All right. Okay, so, you know, this part is quite interesting right here on 3, because if you look right here, you see this was created, or this was published in the winter of 2021. And during COVID, because China and India have agreements too. And what was interesting, and I know I got some people have been viewing at least my shorts from India, so if any of them could, I'd like to hear what the people of India, what their perspective of China is, and the war that was going on in 2020 during COVID. I think it began maybe in 2019 and went into 2021, but then I think some kind of peace happened. Um, but I'd like to understand that. And then Now, everything began as BRIC: Brazil, Russia, India, and China, and South Africa was added in 2011. And like I said, they're striving for this multipolar world, which I don't have anything about that. I do have something against China and the way in which they like to lead and see for the purpose of a new paradigm for globalization. Okay, so and keep this in mind. Remember, let's go back up here to what was said. Friends forever, enemies never. The United States is an enemy. Okay? So we're not a part of BRICS, and don't think you're going to be a part of BRICS, okay? Because BRICS is about excluding the United States, okay? So we go down if this goes up. Okay. Okay, so you got the new BRICS Development Bank and the Currency Reserve Fund. See, this is BRICS trying to be a global reserve currency, which, if people don't understand international trade, basically this is how it went before BRICS. In order to do an international trade, since the United States was the dominant currency, like if China and Russia were to do trade before BRICS prior to 2001, then they would have to take their currency and purchase United States dollars, which gives the American dollar more power. Okay, then they did trade in US dollars. They didn't do trade in their own currency. And that's what this is talking about. In other words, what it's talking about is in the future, it's talking about, hey, the United States would have to buy BRICS currency in order to do international trade. And if we didn't agree with China or we had arguments with China, China could do like what we do to other countries and sanction them. That's what this is all talking about. And then now going with what I was talking before, this comes okay, because I was just talking about how the United States controls the world through currency. So this is, for the first time, instead of the threat of terrorism and cybercrime, most of the speeches were devoted to the U.S.'s attempts to impose its ideology and vision of the world. There are around 100 BRICS-related meetings on economic, political, civil society, and culture topics per year in the country where the summit takes place. Many studies indicate that BRICS is a way of lobbying Chinese interests or even attempt to rebuild the world in Chinese. You see what I'm talking about right here? Right here, building the world in Chinese. However, the intensity of the India-China border conflicts and Brazil's pro-American return during this guy's presidency weakened the BRICS as a counter hegemonic force. Now think about that, okay? And then think about what I talked about with Goldman Sachs, where it says building better global economics. And then you talk about this downfall right here that happened during Trump's presidency with China trying to control the world. And then you relate it back to that, and then what was Biden's political campaign slogan? You had everything was building better, but hey, Trump interfered, and now it's building back better. Okay? So I hope that makes sense right there. If it doesn't, I can let me know and I'll do a better video on it. Okay, moreover, China created another investment of competition by establishing the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank with a capital of 100 billion. Okay. Oh, look at this. Russia. Is it saying that Russia is is a part of Asia in this? That's what I'm thinking it's saying. Um, okay. So, Russia built this right here, the AIIB, to improve the structure of China. Um, and it's doing it to win allies and gain more control in Eurasia and Africa. And and we did see that during COVID, Africa, you can look this up, during COVID, Africa's trade switched to Asia. And the African countries used to use the dollar as their actual currency, and they no longer are. So that was a major victory for China and a major loss for the United States, because those dollars are going to come back to the United States and cause inflation. Okay. Okay. And then I'm going to wrap this up. Okay, so, you know, they're really, China and Russia are playing sneaky, okay? There's one of the things in this paper. Okay, yeah, they're trying to fight terrorism and everything like that, but here it says, despite the fact that China does not support the annex of Crimea by the Russian Federation, both countries condemn the color revolutions. I wouldn't say that, because China has actually been sending troops to Ukraine. They may have not supported that to try to keep their alliance a hush hush until the right time. But no, right now, China and Iran are sending not a lot of troops, but they do have troops fighting there that they sent. And I believe I went over that. But they do have um, opinions about the situation in the Korean Peninsula, Iran's nuclear issues, fighting fighting terrorism and trying to bring peace. But here's one thing that's worth adding, like the paper says, on the UN Security Council. The stance of both states overlaps up to 98%, and Russia has backed all Chinese vetoes since 2007. Okay, so if you have any questions about this, please ask me. But next week, we're gonna start with number 4. We're gonna go into the geoeconomic relations and their strategic dimension, what I was talking about earlier. What is going on and what can we expect? Because the United States is falling. And think about this. We're coming into a time of war, people. Alright? You cannot fund... It's hard to fund war on gold. So I'm not sure whether this fiat system is going to end before or after World War III. I mean, you can fund a war on gold. It's just it's going to cause inflation and devaluation of the currency. You know, and in order for gold to work at its best, you gotta have peace. Because if not, there's a good possibility that devaluation of gold would occur. So that's something to keep in mind. And you can look through history, like, and see that take place. How they used to clip coins and all that stuff. Um, and fiat systems would emerge because they knew that they were going to be in war, and it was just too much to spend with gold, so they would remove the gold value so that they could just print as much money as they wanted to. And that's the key to that. Okay, so this is where we're going to come at next Tuesday. And, yeah, we'll be there then. Or we'll pick back up right here, and we'll go through this. We've only got, I've only talked about 6 of the 20 pages of just this one document. So I'll see you then. You guys have a good one, okay? Peace out, and bye. And this has been a Be Wary of the PSYOP production.